It's not every day we get to experience the release of a new Total War game, but today is in fact such a day. It's almost unbelievable to me that Warhammer 2 came out almost 5 years ago, a title which back then only released 1 year after the original. But here we are, and Warhammer 3, the supposed last in the series, is upon us. I've spent hours upon hours playing the likes of Tsarina Katarina, Miao Ying, and the odd Chaos monster, traversing both Chaos and human lands to bring you my verdict on this absolutely massive title. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, I hope you leave a like and consider supporting me on Patreon. I really love making these videos, but they demand a lot of time and effort, and your support would mean the world to me. And by the way, Creative Assembly has not in any way sponsored this video, but if you wish to buy Warhammer 3 and support me at the same time, feel free to use the affiliate link in the description, which will see 15% of the purchase price go back to me, and that would really help me out as well. And now, my review of Total War Warhammer 3. First of all, yes, I know you're a historical fan. My friend, I am too. I was never the biggest fan of the Warhammer series because I've never had particular love for the universe. It's too over the top for me, too colorful or disgusting in comparison to the more refined taste of a certain other universe in my book. But that's not to say we can't view the Warhammer series for what it is, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with Warhammer 3. You see, this game both looks and feels like CA's most ambitious game ever, and there are many reasons for that. As a third game in the Warhammer series, this game is the product of everything CA has learned so far in the past 6 years of fantasy making, being bigger, more innovative, and more fantastical than ever. I'm talking giant mecha guards doing jumps, massive devils tossing axes at people, old women turning into godlike dragons, and a completely different world existing on top of the main campaign map. Okay, I know that's a lot to take in, so let's begin a little easier. Warhammer 3 takes place in what I would say is the darkest place of the Warhammer games yet. Not only do we have the humans over in Cathay dealing with eternal invasions with the only thing keeping them safe being a giant wall, and humans over in Cold Kislev fighting themselves and monsters at the same time, but there are gates opening up all over the world which open the links between our world and the realms of chaos, where everything is kind of f***ed up. In addition, like 2/3 of playable factions this time are centered around non-human monster chaos factions, with each legendary lord looking more hideous and horrible than the next. Whether we're talking blood for the blood god or serving corn, Warhammer 3 is a dark game with extremely little chill. What it does have a lot of though is map. Warhammer 3's campaign map is enormous, and human factions in particular are located so far from each other that it takes an eternity to even meet. Of course there are other humans around you. Even the Empire shows up even though you can't play them, gosh darn it, but the sheer amount of monstrous enemies and dangerous events makes it feel like you're always fighting to stay alive and racing towards various goals. This especially becomes the case when we're talking about the game's actual story, where each of the factions rush to get control of souls of chaos which will net them ultimate power. There are grand events too, opening up gates which let you traverse the chaos realms, but also lets chaos enter you, meaning you'll have to be careful about having enough armies around. While unique and definitely adding a sense of stake to everything, it certainly changes the feel of every campaign, and if you're a player who likes to take things slow, mind your own business or take things at your own pace, this part of the game can be rather jarring and uprooting, and I sometimes get the feeling that I wish chaos weren't always so ever present. These are some of the aspects that go for every faction in the game, but the faction-specific mechanics are arguably the most interesting ones. Play as Kislev and you'll have to deal with the Motherland, which has you gather supporters to unite all of Kislev. This sees you in a battle with the Great Orthodoxy for the soul of the nation, gathering devotion at the same time in order to keep chaos invasions at bay, recruit powerful witches from the Ice Court, and play special governors called Adamants to keep your realm safe. In addition, the units are for the most part hybrid units, meaning even their heavy knights can whip out a gun before their swords, and making the right use of this ability is crucial. On the other side of the world, Cathay and the northern provinces sees you defend the Great Bastion from constant enemy invasions, balance the harmony of yin and yang to gain powerful bonuses, and move a magical compass around to best suit your needs. It's also important to balance your relations with the Cathay factions around you, creating strong alliances with some, while waging total war on others. Then we have the Demons of Chaos, and even though they have unique mechanics, they're mostly all about one thing: destroying, corrupting, or infesting the world around them. There are unique mechanics here too though, so when playing as the Legion of Chaos, you'll have to balance the favor of each Chaos God and armor yourself with their gifts for powerful buffs, while playing as Khorne sees you collect skulls and fight as many battles as possible for favor with the Blood God. In other words, Warhammer 3 continues the series staple of offering unique mechanics and challenges for each faction, and that's never a bad thing. The only semi-historical Total War to have taken full advantage of this concept is Troy, which in fact is one of my favorite modern Total Wars because of its unique faction experiences. For me personally though, I much prefer the campaigns of Kislev and Cathay, not only because of their faction mechanics which feel more grounded than the rest, but honestly because they're the only factions that resemble what I know and love from historical Total Wars. And this is where my personal preference as a historical Total War player comes in, and I'll give it to you straight. Even though I find it impressive to be able to run around with massive devils and whatnot, it doesn't really feel epic to me. I'd much rather watch a line of gunners prepare a volley while cannons roar in the background, and even though it's epic to watch a dragon do its thing, I kinda prefer having my general be a part of larger bodyguard units. And with that in mind, the only true viable factions for me become Kislev and Cathay, because they are the faction that at least resemble what I know from history. What's especially cool with them is that they're both relatively gunpowder focused, and Cathay especially see you lining up both short and long range infantry to pick up enemies from far away, and it kind of, not fully, but kind of gives me that feeling I got from Empire and Napoleon, and it makes me want an Empire 2 even more now. These factions also give you campaign challenges which are recognizable to historical players, as with Kislev when we're attempting to unite the people behind our cause, or as Cathay when defending a giant wall, or, again, attempting to confederate culturally similar factions into a grander Cathay. If therefore you are interested in Warhammer 3 as a non-Warhammer fan, then these are the factions I would recommend to you. What's more is that Warhammer 3 is the first Total War game to finally, and I mean finally, experiment and expand the multiplayer campaign options. Not only are we given an 8-player grand campaign game, but also other campaign scenarios, and I think this bodes extremely well for the future of Total War Online campaigns, which for the past decade have remained stagnant and extremely subpar. When the Mortal Empires campaign comes out in a few weeks or months then, which will include the entire world as far as the other games are concerned, this could shape up to be one of the most exciting and awesome Total War campaigns ever made. What I do think is a shame though, is that the game demands a lot of your computer. I've been so happy with how recent Total Wars have performed, with Troy being the crown jewel of Total War performance and 3K coming in not too far behind. It's therefore quite a shame that Warhammer 3, arguably looking just the same as the older titles, run far worse on the campaign map. On the Troy map, I'm actually getting around 100 FPS on Ultra, while Warhammer's 3 map caps me out at 55 with constant drops to 30 or below when moving around the map, and that is just a letdown when coming from a much more optimized title. Total War Warhammer is arguably the pinnacle of the Warhammer series, and really shows how CA has implemented every gameplay lesson from the past games into this latest one. The map is enormous, varied, and more beautiful than ever. The units have definitely gotten a makeover and resemble the visual fidelity of games like Total War 3K, and the spectacle that is Total War Warhammer has never been more evident, whether in the campaign, online campaign, or in the battles. If you're a Warhammer fan, picking this up is a no-brainer, as Warhammer 3 is the culmination of every past game, and even now we have the Mortal Empires campaign and other expansions to look forward to. If you're a historical fan, however, the picture is somewhat complicated, because even though Warhammer 3 is more fantastical and ridden with devils and monsters than before, we also have 2 human factions that offer a lot of fun gameplay resembling historical cultures and situations, which to a certain extent manage to kind of scratch those medieval and empire itches. If you have no interest in the Warhammer universe though, then perhaps wait for a sale or just don't bother, as the worst thing is to buy a game like this and then get bored in the first few hours. In essence then, Warhammer 3 is a massive and amazingly put together Total War game, but your mileage will definitely vary depending on whether you're into the Warhammer universe or not, as this game definitely wears that Warhammer badge proudly. Thank you so much for watching. Warhammer 3 has been a long time coming for the fans, but now that the game is upon us, I'm personally very excited to see what CA is working on in terms of historical content. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and a comment, and if you enjoy what I do, I'd really appreciate it if you consider becoming a Patreon. Making these videos do demand a lot of time and effort, and your support really does mean everything to me. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!